And we're live. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me for today's Marketing Tuesday, I guess it is this week. So today we are talking about keywords, one of my favorite topics, but we are talking about the keywords that you don't want to rank for and how you can make sure you're not ranking for things that are completely irrelevant to who you are, what you do, whom you serve, the product services you provide, right? I had this experience with a client a while back where we were looking through some of her data and the top keywords that she was ranking for and getting traffic from, and they had nothing to do with what she was currently doing. They were coming from old posts. They were keywords that apparently were really easy to rank for, but they were no longer relevant to what she was currently doing. So that was a problem. We had to clean that up, right? So sometimes that happens with your organic content. You got to clean up those old pages, those old posts, make sure that all of the content on your website is relevant to what you are currently doing. Sometimes you go through a rebrand and you don't completely update the website. You don't completely get rid of those older posts. Sometimes Google just doesn't. Google also takes a while, right? So if it's only been a few months, give Google a while to get caught up before you expect Google to know everything that you're doing, because it does take a little while. But if it's been years and you're still ranking for that older content, that's a problem. So you can do that by cleaning up your messaging on your website. But when it comes to negative keywords, what most people mean when they talk about negative keywords is they're talking about Google advertising. So when you do Google ads, you can tell Google, these are the keywords and search terms that I want to rank for. I want this ad to show up in these keywords. Great. Except sometimes Google will do that. Google just sometimes, for whatever reason, goes, oh, well, this is kind of related to this, so we should also have them show up in these searches. And sometimes Google does a great job with that. And sometimes you're like, what? No, that has nothing to do with why? Who knows why Google does the things it does, right? So take it with a grain of salt. But the good news is that with your when you set up a Google ad campaign, you can tell it, these are the negative keywords. These are the keywords I don't want to rank for. Do not have this ad show up in these keywords, right? Because remember, Google ads, all digital ads, right, are on a PPC basis. Other PPC stands for pay per click. You pay for each click. So if you're showing up in searches and it's not relevant and people can see that right away and they don't click through, great, no harm done. But if you get a whole lot of people clicking on your ad who are not your ideal client because they think they're getting something that they're not getting, that means your ad is not clear. So that also needs to be addressed, because you need to make sure that the ad clearly conveys what you do and what you do not do. But it's also because, well, they searched for something and Google brought you up when they searched for this thing and you showed up at the top because you paid to show up at the top. So they are clicking through to your website. You are paying for that click and they're not a good lead. They are not at all interested in what you're providing. That's really frustrating for everyone. That's frustrating for the person who's trying to find something and is not finding it. It's frustrating for you because you're basically throwing money out the window by having people click through who are not your ideal clients. They're not going to hire you. Why are you paying for that if they have no chance of becoming a lead? The example I used in my most recent blog post, you can see the link to that is in the description here of this video. So that the example I used was like financial planners who help divorced couples, right? Creates havoc in your personal life and in your financial life. So you often need a financial planner to help you sort through the finances, separate everything out, and set you up for financial success in your post-marriage life, right? So if you are that financial planner who is specifically helping divorced couples, you want to make sure that you show up when people are looking for a financial planner for divorced couples and all those related keywords. You do not want to show up for divorce court, divorce lawyer, couples counseling. None of those have anything to do with what you provide, right? So if people are searching for those things and you're showing up, you might feel like a couples counselor sometimes based on the nature of your work, but that's not really the service that you provide, right? You're helping them with their finances in the process of getting divorced. So the people who are looking for those things might eventually become a client of yours, but they're not looking for you right now. And if they land on your ad right now, Not only are they not going to become a client, but then they might actually get a bad taste in their mouth with your brand because they found your brand when they were looking for something else. And that's super frustrating. And now they feel frustrated when they think of your brand. Those two are now married in their brains, which is super frustrating for you as the business owner, right? So you don't want to do that. You want to go to Google and say, no, these are do not rank me for these keywords. So how do you know if you are ranking for keywords that you don't want to rank for? Well, like I said, I looked at the Google Analytics of that client of mine a while back, and we found what keywords were driving traffic to her website. You can do that in Google Analytics and your Google Search Console, right? So you marry those two things together. You make sure they're talking to each other. So when you go to your Google Analytics, you can see how people are finding your website, what social media channels they're coming from, what links they're clicking on to find you, as well as what search terms are they using that help them find you. If they're good search terms, great. That is awesome. That is something that you want to keep doing. But like I said, sometimes you do that research and you go, huh, what? That has nothing to do with what I do. Where are they finding that? I found that actually on my own website, super embarrassing. People were finding me using keywords in some content on my portfolio. She's like, great to have the portfolio to show people what I can do, but I don't want them to find me based on that because that's not what I do. So I had to put a little robot tag on there so to tell Google, no, ignore this. This is not for SEO. Just pretend it's not even here. So you got to do that. Make sure that the content that you want to show up on Google is actually showing up. And if you have old, outdated content, make sure you clean that up. Either update it or delete it. And last but certainly not least is your Google. Oh, no, not last. The second thing is your rank tracker. You can use a third-party tool. My favorite is SERPstat. You can put in your domain and say, hey, can you look at this and tell me what search terms I'm ranking for here? And that will give you all of the search terms that you are ranking for. It usually gives you like the top 10 keywords that you're ranking for and where you're ranking for those keywords. So that's a super useful tool to have as well. So if you're ranking, if the top 10 keywords are the top 10 keywords you want to be ranking for, great, you are all set. If some keywords are in there are totally unrelated to what you're doing, that's something you're going to have to address. If some of the keywords later on down the line after your top 10, 20 keywords are unrelated, I wouldn't worry about that too much, especially if you're not ranking highly for them. But if you're getting a fair amount of traffic that way, then maybe that is something to worry about. Now, last but certainly not least, like I said, negative keywords are something most people, when we talk about negative keywords, we're talking about your Google ad campaign, because there's a section when you set up a campaign to say, hey, these are the keywords I don't want this ad to show up in. So always check your Google ads, because you are paying for that, right? You are literally paying for each click that you get from those keywords. So if people are clicking through and they're finding you via good keywords that are relevant to what you do and who you serve, great, you're awesome. If you're finding keywords in there that have nothing to do with what you do, that's a big problem. You should solve that. And the way you solve that is by putting that in your negative keywords. Take those keywords that you are somehow showing up and put it into the Google Campaign Ad Manager and say, no, we're not ranking for these keywords. Don't show this ad with these keywords, please and thank you. So that is it. You should always be checking in on that anyway. Regularly, do an audit, see what you're showing up for, see what your rank tracker analysis is, what keywords you're showing up for. And then also, if you have a Google Ad Manager, you're paying for those clicks. So you should pay really close attention to what's working and what's not. What are the keywords that people are using to find you? Are they clicking through? How many people are clicking through? How many people are clicking through and then clicking away again? That's your bounce rate, right? If they click away right away, that means that there's either something wrong with the ad content, the headline, the description. It's getting them to click through and then they're not finding what they want. So that means either the content that they land on has to be optimized to not for SEO, but to get them to engage and convert. and or the content in the ad itself needs to be clearer and maybe reworked to make sure that people have a better idea of what they're going to find if they end up clicking through. Because people should be able to look at something and say, oh yeah, this is what I want, this is what I'm looking for. Or maybe they look at it and go, oh, this might have something to do with what I'm looking for, I'm not entirely sure, I'll click through and see just to be sure. People are not entirely conscious. I'm very conscious because I work in Google advertising and SEO, right? I'm conscious of when I click on an ad, that the person on the other end is paying for that click. So, but not everyone is. A lot of people just look at what shows up at the top of Google and they click through without thinking. So always look at what's working, what's not, so you can make the most of your ad dollars. So that is it. That is everything that I have for you today. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You can always reach me at info@AV, as in my initials, Allison Verhalen, avwritingservices.com. And you can find a whole bunch more information like this over at avwritingservices.com. And if you need help per se with your keyword research, make sure you know the keywords you do want to rank for, and you're not entirely sure what that looks like, then absolutely reach out and we can do that. We can help you with that. That is it. That is everything that I have for you today. Have a great week and happy blogging.